I thought I'll show you some slides and take you through my journey in looking at the Indian economy. Normally, one refrain is, whenever this topic comes up, people say that India is a different country, it's a democracy, and there's other problems. It is too huge a country and things like that, and try to escape giving any proper answers to why we are being very slow in our progress. So I thought I'll share some purely episodic observations. I wouldn't call it comprehensive or complete or full or capable of satisfying any purist statistician or economist. 2 sigma, 3 sigma level it will meet and things like that. Nothing of that kind. But having compared India with other countries, I have traveled extensively on the road in Myanmar, Vietnam, and some other countries, Southeast Asia, Finland, and all. I have a fairly okay kind of opinion on what sells and what doesn't sell. So, in that sense, I would think that although these are random, casual observations, they have some amount of representative value. It's not that, they have to be dismissed completely as random observations. So let's look at the first, this one. If you look at the photograph, this is on the road which connects Raigada, which is one of the district headquarters of in southern Orissa, which connects Raipur about 400 kilometers or something. I had traveled on this road in 2007, 8 firstly, and then maybe intermediate, and finally in 2017 when this photograph was taken. And even from 2007, 8 or something, the road used to be there, and maybe you can travel at 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers or something, some craggy surfaces, but it's nevertheless doable. And of course, not too many users were there other than our own factory for transporting of goods to Raigada, plus of course the locals. Because there is one more parallel road exists straight from the district headquarters, which is about 12, 13 kilometers from here, and which connects at a point of around 25 kilometers or 30 kilometers from here. So it was in that sense a road which was there, which was functional, but not too very this one. But when I went there last in 2017, they had made it like a beautiful road, like a baby's bum, where I had traveled at 110 kilometers, and it's excellent. And but if you see the photographs, there are girls who look like 4 or 5, and that boy must be hardly 2 or something, collecting firewood from nearby forestry kind of place, going back to school. This photograph is around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning time. You can see the shadows of the girls to indicate the time. So the point I'm trying to make is the investments that we are making are very remote in many sense, and not much connected with the people who are living on the sides or intermediate places. Something very peculiar in India, I find. The roads and the people who are living nearby and on the fringes or the sides of the road don't seem to be connected or talking to each other at times. Okay, roads exist for the benefit of somebody who's traveling between these state capital to that state capital or district headquarters. We have nothing to do with it kind of stuff. And in that sense, I find that a lot of investments these days, roads, ports, and there's Udan airports, and those kinds of things don't have any linkage with bottom 30, 40, 50% of the people at all, completely removed. That is one problem. The second problem is this road, in my opinion, will have a payback period of at least 50 years. Because the incremental traffic which this upgradation of road would have brought in is almost nil. And unfortunately, the surrounding villages also don't have too much of marketable surplus, because they are in what I would call the absolute sustenance level, which means they have enough to eat, they get enough harvest or cultivate something which is enough to eat to meet both the skin and bone stay together and perpetuate their existence, but with no time or resources or any other intervention to upgrade themselves either by asset acquisition or skill acquisition or education where they can go and plonk themselves at a higher level of income and income generation. That does not happen at all. So we need investments. If you have to deliver these people permanently out of poverty, our investments would need to focus on issues which concern them, which upgrade them, which give them skills, build capabilities, etc. And that is my observation. In fact, if you look at the Taj Expressway between Greater Noida to Agra, which almost delivers you to the Taj Mahal, it's a fantastic, first world kind of highway, no doubt. But it has no meaning whatsoever for the intermediate villages at all, because it's all in a high elevated platform. Only two or three exits are there, one near Aligarh, one to go to Mathura, and one maybe somewhere near the sports city of JPs, etc. Hello, yeah, and I think it will have a payback of 100 years. I think because not too much of traffic also has built up there, and I don't think they have opened it to goods traffic either. And such kinds of investments obviously would need to be revisited, in my opinion. Let's go to the next. This one, of course, this is the same place only. All of you mute, please. All of you mute, please. And this is somewhere inside village, and that small structure that you see, which some concrete, not concrete, that slab on top, is the chief temple for three or four such villages. It's about 200-300 meters from the nearest village. That's the chief temple, so to say. And the one small structure that, a statue or whatever you call it, is the chief god of that region, presiding deity. And that's the, I'm just giving it for comparison sake only, nothing to deride or, not to decide or, pass any judgments on those people. Any good occasion or something, all these villagers congregate there, first pray and then only go. And that person who's in dhoti that day was about to get married, and that's how they all come there. And that lady in red sari is the chief priest, so to say, and she comes and performs all the pujas. And this is the road I was talking about, that auto is going. That's the road where I can do easily 110 kilometers. That's where I got a little afraid, because if some children start crossing the road without, unmindful of the traffic. Ram Subbu, please mute, please. And the one below is at the same place where it's about 100 meters from that this one, where our company under CSR program had put one solar pump which irrigates something like 26 acres of land. What it did was a semi-arid kind of place, only one crop per annum it was getting. Even now it's getting only that much. But our irrigated area, which is only a small patch, they went into three crops, rather round the year kind of crop. So some of these people, the average land size holding will be 1 acre, 1.5 acres, some such thing. We spent maybe about 8 or 10 lakhs on it. And some of them, laid some trees in between, and their crops in between. Otherwise, they grew millet, which used to be one, maybe two rounds, or vegetables. And some people, put it on the contour trees. These trees will give them return only once in 3 or 4 years, but for them it's a chunk. Even if you get about 40,000 or something per acre, it's a huge chunk for them. Once in 3 years also, it's a big amount. So this at least has some meaning to them in terms of what is investment. And in fact, after this must have been about 5-6 years back, and after that there have been some requests by the local people for similar kind of projects. In some cases, they are willing to fund it themselves. And this is a very funny kind of situation. This is a 2007 photograph, and the man, the middle person who is sitting in between the two, he is the owner of this land, about half an acre of plantation. So we were trying to grow our plantation, rather propagate our plantation there. We were having a tough time, And this 2006 cyclone in Orissa felled a lot of avenue trees in the state highways and others. So they were dragged it to our factory. We have a scheme for purchase of this wood. Please, Ram Subramaniam, please mute, please. And uh, they saw some money. After that, they took to growing of trees. And I had taken. I mean, you must have heard of this carbon trading mechanism. And in the world, there were two models, and one is for government-owned land, forests, and one is for privately held forests, which are massive in size, 70,000 acres, hectares, and so on and so forth. But there was no mod. Ramsubu, can you mute, please? Can you mute? Some, please mute, please. And so, we were
Kumar,
trying
you can also mute everybody else.
Yeah, I think so. I will.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we were trying to put together, all these people have 1 acre, 2 acres kind of plot. It's very difficult for them to, go and market it in the international market. It's like selling, I have one tomato free, so I'll have to go and sell it in the wholesale market kind of stuff. So, IFC, World Bank, and some people and us and one other Indian company, we got together to put together a mechanism where we can aggregate the entitlements of these people and sell it in the world market. It took about 5 years for us, but we did succeed. In fact, recently, about a couple of weeks back, the one of the yearly installments of around 150 lakhs or something, we got it and distributed amongst 2,500 farmers or something, the local staff. And I had accompanied this team, which had two people from KfW Germany, which is their government funding arm, plus two people from World Bank and two officials from NABARD, to see how they can fund it and things like that. And they were asking them whether you can give a mortgage and a security and a guarantor. Do you have the land titles to documents or something? These people, lungi wearing, and they have never been inside a school. And these three, at least the one who is seated, they have never seen a 100 rupee note in their life. And there is complete subsistence living. I mean, whatever crop grows, they eat. And he was living with a buffalo in his hut, which may be about 10 to 10 feet. Of course, they were a family of four. It looks so very outlandish and removed from their kind of conditions. And the person who is here, left to the right, I mean, red-shirted person from, I think he's from KfW. And he was, they were all going towards how to secure that loan. This person has a capability of taking maybe 4,000, 5,000 rupees worth of loan, not more. How to secure it through land documentation, through registration of all this funny nonsense. After some time, I was also smirking away to glory, and then everything is stopped. And that person in between, he was our manager of this plantation business. So he was also looking at the very paradoxical situation, and after everything was over, he just clarified, is everything over? Now, can I demonstrate something to you? I said yes, and he asked this owner of this land, who is this person sitting at the bottom middle, can you show me how you smoke a cigar or whatever? And that person, he was very proud that somebody is asking him something to demonstrate. So from his right loin cloth, which is folded, he unfolded and took away some strip of tobacco, raw tobacco, brown, almost black in color. He took it and folded it, and on the left side he opened it and took out two flint stones. I'm talking about flint stones, which you may have heard was being used 2,500 years ago or something. And then he rubbed it, 2 sparks, 3 sparks after 2 or 3 rubbing, and after that it really, like a gas stove or something, it flows actually the fire actually. And he lit this cigarette and just smoked one or two, this one. And that's the state of poverty, at least as it was in 2007. It is not this one. That was his primary source of firing, not matchbox. So you can see the level of poverty and the level of state of advancedness and the kind of programs that we were trying to design for that kind of people. So irony of this one, no words were spoken after that. I understood what he meant, and so somehow I feel even today we dictate the kind of solutions we know rather than going to the ground level, smelling the soil as it is there, trying to design a solution which will work at that stage. Next slide is I don't know why it's not. This is a funny situation when we were coming out of that place. Uh, so this is a check post to that village. And this lady was not lady, about there were 3, 4 of 5-year-old, 6-year-old kids who were manning and standing right across the road, demanding money, 5 rupees from you, otherwise we'll not let you go, types kind of stuff. And I was just needling them and asking some funny queries. So every time I ask you query, wait, and then they will go inside and talk to some elder or something, come back and give me some reply, and they went on for 10 minutes, after which I paid them handsomely to move on. So this is another village somewhere near where should I say, behind our factory, and about half a kilometer behind our factory is a railway line which is just about 7-8 kilometers. If you walk along the railway lines to one of the important junctions in that place, and half a kilometer from there is this place, which is about 492 people and about 93 families or something. And in this village, there's only one, that lady in the middle in red sari is the only lady who has gone up to 10th standard. She is the only one who can multiply 10 is to 10 kind of tables. The nearest next is that violet sarried woman who has, I think, gone up to third or fourth. She can multiply up to 3 is to 3 table. There is no other person in this 492 who can go beyond 3 is to 3. And peculiarly, none of their village people, despite the railway line being so near, have ever gone inside a railway compartment. And in fact, I asked them, who is Pranab Mukherjee? What do you know of him? In fact, he was in the news for something. I asked them, do you know Pranab Mukherjee, president? None of them knew that there is a president for India, nor his name is Pranab Mukherjee. Then I ventured to ask him, who is Narendra Modi? Zilch. You will not believe me, but maybe you can go and test it out there, again. There were nobody from this group. I mean, maybe somebody in the village must have known Narendra Modi in 2017, but from this group at least nobody knew who Narendra Modi is. And I asked them, who is the only Indian you know? The only Indian they knew was Nobin Patnaik, who is their chief minister. After a little bit of probe, how they come to know, etc., I realized it is because he is the one who ensured that they get their rations, the subsidized rations, regularly. So, implying that the previous people may have been pocketing it, previously. Then one of the unidentified issues in the after that, I felt a little sorry, and I had designed 3 programs. The one is I talked to this Tilonia, this Bunker Roy, and what's that lady's name, Aruna Roy. I had visited their output, and they make electricians out of illiterates. Oh, the electricians who can make the solar lantern, solar cooker, solar panels, solar lighting systems, etc. After a training of 6 months, people from Senegal, Nigeria, Ethiopia, parts of Uganda, Rwanda, Bhutan, Nepal, and all come there with no knowledge whatsoever of any language. Forget about English or something. They come and learn, and they go back as experts who can not only assemble these things but even repair, so that the villagers don't need to have electricity lines coming into their villages to electrify, but they have capability to manage electricity, lighting, fan, charger for cell phone, which is as ubiquitous as oxygen these days, all the stuff. And I thought I'll train some of these people in that this one. I committed my personal funds. I said at that time the training was about 1.25 lakhs costing. I said I'll train about 6 people. I'll also train some of these people for dosa paste making, idli paste making, and making of South Indian snacks, which are very well loved and in this part of this one, but they make horrible things in their hotel and home. So I had talked to one person in Calcutta and two more in Chennai to come and educate these people how to make it both marketable as well as for themselves. And also, I told them I'll contribute 6 sewing machines as well as train them in sewing so that they can have some sustainable source of living. But after 2 or 3 follow-ups in 3 4 months, there was nil response. And I had taken the permission of my employer, and they were generous. They said, please use our CSR team also. We have no issues. And in fact, a couple of other gentlemen who were my colleagues, after hearing this, they committed the whole sum themselves. We may not be able to do this. We don't have the knowledge how to approach. If you do it, the entire expenses will be underwritten by us. Two of them, committed that funds, but 3 months no response. In fact, Tilonia's manager started calling me up. Is 1.25 lakhs putting you off? Don't be afraid of this money. We know how to recover it from. There are several schemes of the government. We will substantially 80% of it I'll recover even before they come here for the program. So you pitch in with the 25,000 only. I mean, it's not a big deal. We'll work it out. That when this was conveyed to them at zero cost to themselves, entire expenses borne for 6 months, they have to only release 6 or 7 people for this purpose. They can come and get themselves trained and have a marketable surplus. After that, at least get better lighting and other facilities in their home. After 6 months, I gave up. So I think the aspiration trap, where the person doesn't have any desire to go to a higher level of standard of living or income or wealth or asset, is one aspect which distinguishes India from several other parts of the world. And I don't know, maybe it has got to do with religion, or it's their own upbringing, or there is no, what should I say, role models for them who can demonstrate, come, get you still established at a higher level. I'm here to see. The risks are not that much. I made this money. You also come and make this money. That kind of stuff. Incidentally, this Oyo's owner Agarwal, because he's not from this particular village, he's from the vicinity. Of course, he has done it all by himself with no role model. He has himself become a role model. But unfortunately, these people neither have a role model, but I doubt even if they have a role model, they will emerge out of this trap themselves. Unfortunate. This kind of trapping I don't find in many of the other poorer regions I have visited in other countries. Unfortunate, but this is one unprovided thing in our developmental planning, I think. In fact, one of the other things is, even whatever surplus money they get, immediately they invest in jewelry only. Look at the jewelries that these people are wearing. I'm not saying that this is all gold, but whatever little surplus they get, also they immediately invest in gold. That's where it stops. If these photos have been one of despair, I move on to hope now. This is near Sirpur. Let me see if that Sirpur MLA is there. He said he will visit. Dinesh, are you there? Mr. Konappa? Okay, I think they don't seem to be there. Okay, so this I had visited after we took over this factory in Sirpur, which is in a tribal region and one of the worst affected Naxalite affected regions. And after our first Independence Day, I think in 2018, when I had a train to catch at around 11 o'clock. I had finished our factories. The Independence flag hoisting ceremony. In fact, that's the ground from which Indira Gandhi declared her emergency actually in 75 or 76, whenever she declared. And just when I was getting down, the local lawyer came and, sir, will you be able to come and spend some time with this tribal school? I said I have to catch a train, and this school is about 25 kilometers from our place. He was virtually, hijacking me, and so no, I will make sure that you will enter the train. Don't worry. If it is 25 kilometers, it's only 25 minutes, and there is no traffic, etc. So I went ultimately, and ultimately decided even if I miss the train, so what? I'll catch the next train. I went. I must compliment both Mr. Naidu, the Chief Minister of Combined Andhra Pradesh once, and Mr. YSR Reddy. They had done an excellent work in eradication of Naxalism. My heart bleeds because they had to finish off something like 200 people through encounters and other things. But they followed it up very well through development of roads and communication systems very quickly. But that's one of the smallest matters. But they also established schools, boarding and lodging up to 10th standard for all the children in that region who were either Naxalite affected or Naxalite sympathizers that way. And from first standard to 10th standard, you get all your boarding lodging facility, and their menu, etc., is fantastic. Very wholesome, very hygienic, and very class teachers. About 18 of them were there for these 400 girl children. And so that the mothers and father, they can work the field in the agricultural this one. But what was this one? I'll show you a small clipping of video. They have about 91 schools in this rim itself, which borders on Gachiroli area of Maharashtra, where Naxalism is still prevalent, and Chhattisgarh, which is even more intense. And inside they have another about 40-50 schools right along the rim, so that all these kids are in school learning. But the kind of capacities that these children have built up, it's stunning. That's the thing I wanted to It's a small video.
हिंदी dancer dance करेंगे
Okay. In fact, normally in these kinds of things, I don't speak. I only invite them to ask me questions, or I ask them questions, random questions, and the speech. Then I say, I don't think they will identify if anything with my kind of speech. So I go into the crowd and I keep asking them, how do you feel, what do you want to do, etc. The kind of pinpoint, precise answers they were giving were stunning. I want to become a doctor, musician, cricketer, cop, collector, like that. Of course, there was a preponderance of teachers and doctors, and that's why I'm quipping. If everybody wants to become a doctor, who will be the patient? Okay, that's my quipping. Let me tell you, compared to these people, the aspiration trap people in the previous village, I had all grown ups. These children, even at this stage, will have a capacity to contribute, earn economic worth at least 10 times, even at this stage. And imagine these people maturing into doctors, dancers, and very bold, risk taking dancers, musicians. In fact, I have a clipping where one girl says she wants to become a musician. I said, "Will you sing now?" No hesitation whatsoever. She immediately came forth, and some local dialect she sang a song. And immediately seeing her, one more the girl came forward. "Sir, I want to sing Mere Vatan Ke Logo Wo song." In my school days, I was not confident. Not even 100, when one tenth of that kind of confidence I had. The kind of confidence, these capacities we have built up along this Naxalite area is stunning, and that probably gives us a way ahead of how to go forward.
Nice, sir. Answer.
This is the some nearby school, which is Navodaya school, which you may have heard of. This was coined by Rajiv Gandhi, who asked a question: I have gone to Doon school or something. Why not have one Doon school in each district? So he did get after it and establish one school per district, where you get in through competitive exams after the fifth standard. Then write your exams in whichever language you want. But the entire boarding lodging is on the government, that is the central government. Unfortunately, only Tamil Nadu prevented this thing from coming up. Usually they take about 150 people, out of which 70 has to be from local regions only, and 30% of the seats are reserved for girls, or rather 40 I think, and 30% will have to be necessarily from poorer sections. They have defined whatever poorer sections. And again, they had invited me, or rather I had made them invite me for a talk shows, because I wanted to see what the school is all about. And I was stunned by the kind of as usual, I asked what kind of the career you want to pursue and things like that, and the kind of answers I get: astrophysicist, neuroscientist, I want to become an astronaut, I want to be a top cricketer, and so on and so forth. And this guy who's in front of me, this one was astrophysicist. I don't know what it means myself, but I think it's something I find a science, basic science oriented. And that's the quizzical, or rather surprised look on my face, because he was the first boy to answer my question. On the right is the Atal incubation center is there in the school. This school was the third one to get it, and he had concocted something whereby if your cell phone is getting stolen, or any of your other thing is getting stolen, the cell phone or its clone will vibrate to indicate where it is getting stolen. It's a 8th or 9th standard boy actually, and he was demonstrating it to me. In my opinion, this is the kind of skills that we should be building to make India really poverty free. To add skills, to harvest what they call it, the human resources based this one, dividends, human dividends, whatever you call it. So I think now there are about 650 schools or something. I think we should have carried on this and created one such school every second year or something. And all that it takes is about 4 crores per school. And incidentally, the entire thing is governed by the school, including what food to eat, what to teach, what to this one. Everything is decided by the school only. And it has PhDs, it has MPhils, all those kind of. And it is in that tribal area. And you can imagine the state of affairs of this one. And of course, this is one of the other schools, and the person who is left of me is the headmaster. Actually, in the tribal schools, only a tribal can be a headmaster and teacher actually. And but of course, the government has been extremely flexible in this matter. In fact, the school wasn't proceeding too well, so they caught hold of one. I think this gentleman is a Brahmin or some upper caste fellow, and there's another Brahmin nearby. They were known to establish the schools This school was languishing, buildings are not coming up, teachers are not joining, etc. They put a male person instead of a female person, a non-tribal person in the school, and he changed the whole gamut of things in 5 years. But when I visited, all the schools had been completed, all the classes had been completed. Of course, some more work needed to be done by way of kitchen, dining area, and things like that. And all the teachers were in position, and a fantastic, rate of people passing this 10th standard or whatever. But of course, this I had, this is about 45 kilometers east of Sirpur into jungles, and I had traveled it at 7:30 in the night to reach it, because that's when I got free from the factory. And the person who was taking me used to say every 2 minutes, this is where one battle with the Naxalites took place. This is where the Naxalites were hiding, and that place is the the Litter King. This SP was attacked, and every fifth or sixth kilometer he used to give me some stories like that, and pitch dark. Other than our own headlights, there was nothing. And of course, okay kind of motorable road. By the time I was through with 10-15 kilometers, my stomach was churning actually, but I did say that I will make the trip, whatever happens. And I did spend the night with this one. And of course, the permission, the state level secretary say, Ana, just 2 ghanta laga. Around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, that person said he will carry me. And then I said, okay. By the time they talked and got back the permission. Such is the response of the government that it can be when it wants to. But of course, this, when I was going to this place, I found a peculiar thing. A lot of goats or sheep were there in one place, guarded by one or two people. It was eating the leftovers after the crop is cut, and they were guarding it to only within some limits. And I was asking my patron, what is this? I mean, they let the goats eat, after all they are, eating somebody else's crop. Why? No, sir. For keeping your goat from morning 6 o'clock to evening 6 o'clock, in this, they said about 50 or 60 in number. In this 1 acre or 1 hectare, whatever is this one, they are paid 10,000 to the sheep owner. Such is the value of their droppings and urine, which is being used by these people. So that is why they want to make certain that the goats graze only in that area, not outside. So this was a valuable lesson in planning. And I will just quickly summarize one or two this one. Why, what we need to do as a way ahead. I think we need to relook at our definition of infrastructure. I think our infrastructure should be focused on education and medical care. There is plenty of harvest by giving them a good mix of medical assistance, especially during childbirth, before, after, and capacity building. I don't think any MBBS is going to go there. We need to come, and I don't think this excessive reliance on allopathy or dominance of allopathy is sustainable. And if we can come up with for their kind of diseases, about 70-80% of them can be cured with local cures, Ayurveda, Unani, biochemistry, homeopathy, etc. If the government can come with an appropriate mix of this, plus of course allopathy will be required for major surgeries, heart transplant, or what. I don't think anybody has the resources to do it anyway there. We can deliver healthcare, proper healthcare, at 1.5 to 2% of GDP. We don't need to spend 6%. It's a big bogey in my opinion. As well as education skill building. What I see in this one is fantastic. If the same level of education can be imparted, I don't think it will take much effort or resources. I think we have that resources. We are spending more on electricity, subsidies and such kinds of subsidies. And I think education should be the biggest subsidy, putting them all inside schools and proper skill building. That we need to redefine, and unfortunately, government is spending on more and more small airports and roads, and making a 5-lane to a 6-lane, 4-lane to 6-lane, etc. And with no hopes of any quick returns in any of them. So this second, of course, thing is that trade is beneficial, and I am not against trade. Everybody should trade, but it should be beneficial. Terms of trade should be beneficial. Now, let me give one example. There's not, I have no grouse either against the marketeers or those people if they want to consume Pepsi and Frito Lays or something. Let them. I have no grouse. But look at the irony. Typically, at kg of potato or tomato, whatever, sells at the farm gate at 3 to 4 rupees. I have gone and bought it, so I know. But in the wholesale mandi, rather in the cities, that same thing is selling at anywhere from 30 to 40 rupees. The rest, I'm not saying somebody is eating it, but the whole chain of wholesalers, middlemen, storing, wastage, which is very high, and financing, and then all those kinds of things get eaten up. Fine, I mean, no grouses. Hopefully, the people like Pepsi or these chips makers, etc., they get it at 20 rupees, not 40 rupees at the local stage. They convert it into chips and sell it back to these villages also. Typically, a packet of 10 will have 20 grams of potato, maybe some pepper, some masala, some this one, a lot of air, of course, and fancy packaging and transportation. And in the case of manufactured goods, this kind of discrepancy doesn't exist. 3-4 rupees versus 30-40 rupees. It's the same 5 rupees or 10 rupees everywhere. Look at the irony of these villages selling their potato kg for 3-4 rupees and buying back processed stuff at maybe 5 or 10 rupees, but 1/50th or 1/100th in the quantity. So these people are losing too much of value from their system, but they are getting their value, I'm not denying, but getting value which is much, much less than commensurate. And this is also one of the and the more the manufactured goods are reaching these people, their terms of trade in true sense is diminishing by the day. This is one unfortunate aspect of our reforms. And in fact, the government is saying I will double the farmers' income. I think they should concentrate on doubling the net income of the farmers, not gross income. I'll tell you why. In fact, these two books, one was the right hand side, the book was written in 1940 based on experiments in Indore experiment by one Sir Albert Howard. The left side is by one Japanese guy. They have explained the integrated farming, which means the animal systems, the plant systems, and the human systems will have to stay integrated. And if it is integrated, there are a lot of solutions to a lot of problems. Poverty being one of them, better sustained living, more income to the farming community, and more healthy living of both the bovine population, trees, as well as the human population. Just one example I have given here. This is on the 60th page of that Howard Testament. They have calculated the value of oxen sheerly in terms of that urine and that dung. They are capable of giving something like 1300 CFT of compost in a year, which is approximately 27 tons of urea, which is about 1.45 lakh rupees in 2017 urea prices. Even if you offset all the costs, take away the cost of maintenance of cows, etc., cows or the bulls, and feed all the things which are getting burnt in Punjab, which is creating a problem elsewhere. They can go on for a year. They can still deliver something like 30,000-40,000 worth of net income to you. But net income with chot dijiye, I mean that's this one. But more importantly, this 1.45 lakhs of fertilizer which you are buying from externally will be trapped inside the village system. And if these people, even if they want to buy gold, let them buy gold. They will become more secure. If they can build better houses for themselves or spend it in some other items, these villages or the poorer community can be far better off. And likewise, the pesticides, insecticides. We are putting insecticides all over, killing the good insecticides also. God has created both good and bad. whether it is pests or insects, we are killing both of them. And we are eating the chemicals and the, all the good things gone away, all unwanted, neutral roughage with some chemicals at our level as well as the village level. And I think we should have been a lot more careful doing it, as well as water. Both these people have demonstrated with water which is 40 to 50% less, you can improve the productivity by 12 to 15% in the same area. By giving excessive water, we are compacting the soil, making it difficult for the fields to breathe and get oxygen, which is so vital, with the result that the productivity is going down. And in fact, this Japanese guy is even more crazy. Whatever you harvest, this one also, you just put it back in the soil itself and water it for about 12-13 days. It becomes green manure. After that, you plant. There's no seed, what do you call it, replantation of seedlings, transplantation, so to say. He is putting one seed by one seed at a space of 12 inches each, and each of them grows so healthily that each stalk gives you something like 250 grams of rice or wheat, quarter kg, not 10 grams and 15 grams and maybe about 25-30 grams that you see in the current stocks, which happens. And these are proven experiments. You can read the book, and I will circulate this one also. And of course, the interest which they pay through the nose. The last time when I checked about a year back, they pay 47 for 53, which means the chit funds, local chit funds, which means at first two belong to the person who is managing it. From 3rd to the 12th belongs to the other people. Anybody can bid. So if you want 100 rupees, they will give you only 53, 47 being the upfront interest deducted in the 3rd month, and you will have to pay 10 rupees every or 8.5 rupees every month to make it 100. That's about more than 100% interest rate. If the government can somehow make it available at 4 and 5% interest rate, so they can be much better off in terms of water saved, interest rate saved, fertilizer saved, insecticide saved. There can be a more harmonious living between the plant life, animal life, as well as human life, as well as they can be a little more healthy. And this is the proof. Last two conclusions. How much of India's less impressive growth is due to size or democracy or various kinds of things, excuses, I would dare to describe them, is because of this. I leave you to decide. But I think lack of identification of relevant issues, especially the aspiration traps, is one big thing. Second, I have traveled to many poor places because of my engagement with tree plantation, growth and identification of opportunities. Many poor regions, to villages, etc., and the interiors. Nowhere else other than India, the policies and programs of the government look as distant, removed, and innocuous as in India. I have seen Myanmar, I've seen Vietnam, as much as I've seen India. Finland, of course, is a very highly developed country. Swaziland, parts of South Africa, all these places, and where real poverty exists in the interior places. I tell you, it is most distant in India. And of course, people will say growth is important. We need to grow at 12%. I agree. We need to go at 12%. Unless you have something in the kitty, nothing is going to come out. I completely agree. But there are steps which are promoting inequality rather than culling inequality. One is, of course, the compensation liberalization. More wealth of this, this one is congregating towards lesser number of people. Direct taxes reach is not improving at all, despite the greater share of income accruing to lesser number of people or percentage of people. But GST has been universalized. Everybody, including those people who I showed you on the various photographs, they have to pay GST. Lastly, the purchase of manufactured goods at very extreme adverse terms of trade. Of course, the terms of trade at the wholesale level between the agriculture and manufactured goods has moved in favor of agriculture, but it is not transmitting to the lower level people. So these are the kinds of conclusions I have come to. I may be a little too over influenced or too very what should I say illogical in concluding. But this is by way of sharing information. You are willing to and you are okay to come to whatever conclusions you want. Hi, David. Very nice to see you.
Kumar, I very much enjoyed your presentation.
So I had
Thanks.
minimized the icon, so I didn't see who was there. Yeah.
Very much enjoyed it. It reminds me of my days going through rural India.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So similar issues. But I think the most important thing, if I can just take a second, is, it's basic education, as you said. Unless you can educate children, and you really have to let the government provide housing and food and provide that infrastructure. That's critical, because you have to educate. That's essential. And I think the second thing that you mentioned, it's very interesting. It's communications. It's I remember when introduction of television came to India in the 70s, the huge change it had, and just availability of access to television, and the world from outside of India became available to everyone, to many people who had televisions in those days in India. It's the same thing with the mobile phone. The mobile phone has created the opportunity for villagers, if they can understand and are educated enough to understand. Look, they understand what pricing is. They understand what their commodity is really worth. That's also critical. What they've done with mobile phones in India is phenomenal. And so you have to take advantage of that. That's just two observations. Thank you. That was really well done, Kumar.
Thank you. Mr. David is from the Indo-US Business Forum, and he's been a friend of India for more than about 50, 60 years now.
50 years, a little over 50 years, long time.
Don't worry, no young ladies are around, and you can quote your age properly.
Okay, anyway, see, I am Appaya here.
Yeah, sure.
I do agree with what Mr. David says. Two things. One is regarding the education. It's absolutely imperative that you get, probably we are not trying to educate the children, but we are trying to make them literate. That is the first step. But unfortunately, the infrastructure available for education is very, very, very poor in the rural areas. The government, in spite of all its efforts, has not been able to make any headway in that. In fact, I know I've been in this area, but most of the schools don't have, like the school to which my hostel children go, there has been no economics teacher for the past 4 or 5 years. Okay, that is the first part. So I and my founder, we said we'll go and take economics classes for the children, but 11th and 12th. The headmaster was very happy. She said okay, but unfortunately we took class for about 1 week. I for the 11th and my uncle, the founder, for the 12th. Then the teachers, the headmaster said, "Sir, we don't need you here."
Okay.
And we asked them what. They say, "You're teaching, you're trying to teach them economics. We don't want that. We want you to tell them what will be the probable questions for the examination. Just mark it and let them pass. What we need is 100% result. That is it. That is first thing. Second thing is about the mobiles he was talking about. While mobiles are good, probably they get the latest information. Of course, that is subject to the point that they are reasonably educated. But the social media has been a biggest problem for the younger generation.
Yeah.
That has spoiled, and I don't know, I think that is a very big problem which needs to be tackled. So I don't know, that is these are my 2 cents on Mr. David's observations.
Thank you. And Chandu, you had a query. Chandu? Anyway, his query was, no, who do I, Chandu? Okay, his query was, who do I prefer, the Babu or the Netha? And let me be very frank, my answer might trouble many of you. My preference is Netha. Nethas serve our country far better than any of you think they are serving. You may think they are crooks, criminals, rapists, murderers, whatever you want to think, you think. But for their existence, in my opinion, our country would have been in 6,000 pieces. There is no justice judicial system anywhere in the rural areas touching the 70% of the people. Zero. The reach of our judicial system in the commercial space may be very good, but in most criminal civil disputes does not go beyond maybe Borivali and maybe Arakonam and whatever, Faridabad. There is no effective justice whatsoever. Forget about everything, systems, whether we've got a British system which is very useless, all this is fine. But let me give you one statistics. As per the latest wealth report put out by Piketty's website, our average wealth of the bottom 50% is 1,06,006 rupees. With that kind of a wealth, he is in a subsistence living, the entire family. You think you can afford the time to even take one day off and come to the court, file your this one, after that wait for another 17 years to get the judgment so that he can get the effective remedy? Impossible. He has to, but the issues that concern him are real, mainly real estate. He will be cultivating some plot, and somebody else will come and encroach 1 feet right along the contour. Somebody will come and take his crop away. All this that hits him next day. Where is this one remedy for him? He has to go to the local gunda, who ultimately becomes a politician. Right? This question I have asked at least 4 countries: people from Vietnam, Myanmar, and Swaziland. The politicians, they are members of either legislatures or ministers or whatever. Their answer is very clear. Netas may be corrupt in all these countries, including US. Every neta is a corrupt fellow. Don't have any illusions. Only the degree might differ. Their universal answer is, unless he reinvests at least 50% of his whatever he extracts back into his constituency, to the nearby people, his friends and his voters, etc., he cannot come back, cannot get re-elected. If Mr. Rajiv Gandhi says out of every 1 rupee I spend, only 15 reaches, I am more than happy that these netas are at least reaching 50%. To hell with every other logic, is my answer to his question. Now, one Rama, I expected a lady, but Ram Subramaniam. You can ask your query, Mr. Ram.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, very nice presentation, and it's a good sharing and revealing as well. And so I know I actually nowadays, there are a lot of, I would say, development in the organic growing and organic farming and all that. So based on your experience or what you've seen, do you think it's a threat for the poor farmers or it's an opportunity?
Mr. Ram Subramanian, what I would suggest is you are living in Hyderabad, right?
Right, yeah.
Take the road to going towards Nagpur, about 150 kilometers or something. There are on the side a lot of organic farms are there. Maybe you can observe to see the effect. Let us see what organic farm does in effect. If you want to read more stuff, it is there in the internet all over, or you can read these 2 books that will give you the conviction required. Okay. First of all, organic farming can cut down seed consumption by 80%, can cut down water consumption by 40% minimum, can effectively get over fertilizer consumption, Effective because some soil are always deficient of something. You have to make up. Plus, you may not have the confidence to get rid of fertilizers altogether. Of course, insecticides, people are still not sure, because the insecticides, I'll just describe if the others have patience. Most insects, like you must have seen immediately after the rains, some insects come. They last only 1 or 2 days. That is their biological cycle. And likewise, even these insects, as per that this Japanese fellow, they all have a cycle. If let's say September 15th, or after the first rains, or the first sun, etc., they appear. And their shelf life is either 1 to 2 days to maximum 2 weeks. It cannot go beyond. So what he says is, you plant your seeds 2 weeks later. After that, their lifetime is over. No insecticides is required. And he has demonstrated it. It's not that, without this one, he's talking through the air or something. And of course, if you cut down all this, in my opinion, he can double his income very, very easily. And of course, that cow dung example which I had talked about. In fact, I was to go and see that particular place which I was recommending, but unfortunately, I think they had already cut down the crops. So the MLA suggested, you come next season, karke. So I couldn't visit. But it is a real thing. In my opinion, bulk of the cancer, it's all coming because we are eating chemicals. We are eating stuff which doesn't have any nutrition. All this thing will go away, in my opinion. Of course, you can have your own opinion, but you can read this book to fortify yourself. Mr. Appaya, I'll just come back to you.
No, I'm sorry, I won't take much. On the same point,
Yeah.
I have see, basically, Mr. Ramsubramanian probably must be talking about marginal farmers. What probably you are talking about is the bigger ones. A marginal farmer, can he sustain, can he afford and sustain that is a question which I don't know, I have my own doubts.
Yeah, this was my point. Yeah.
Okay, I will return to that later. I have to give chance to Mr. Desikan first. Desikan, are you there?
Kumar, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, first of all, I think, thank you, Kumar. I think your curiosity and your keenness to learn has taken you to many places, and you had different experiences. Thanks for sharing that. And the second point is, understanding the Indian economy through Planning Commission, Niti Aayog, charts and all is one, but experience-based understanding is excellent. That way, I think, thank you so much for that. The point I had is rather supplemental to what you said. I think health and education are the two key things that we need to heavily focus and invest, which I think we have consistently failed on that. Take the IITs or the IIMs or the Navodayas or all of those things, or even the medical that you talked about in the first. I think that is something which is very fundamental for a long-term sustainable growth. I think that's number one. And the second point is also on the inclusive growth. I think growth cannot be polarized. It cannot be rich becoming richer and the poor remaining poor. I think that is very important in a democratic nation like ours. I think these are the points that, it's a very high level thing, but I think it's more supplementary. And one more point I wanted to add is the question of Babu versus Netas. I am in fully agreement with you, because the Babus have failed this country. That is what my settled opinion, because they are there for some 50 years, whereas the Netas keep changing every 5 years. And competencies are supposed to be much better with the Babus. It's the negligence, ignorance, or even the arrogance of the Babu system that has failed this country. And that has been my grievance. And that has been my experience even in my official career as well. Anyway, thank you so much, Kumar. Fantastic.
We don't need to trade off one with the other. And I was only commenting more from the Netas and the negative opinion we have about them. Now the sequence will be like this: Mr. Mukherjee, Lakshmi, and then Mr. Kulkarni. In that order we'll go. Yeah, Mr. Mukherjee.
Kumar, thank you so much, Kumar, for bringing all this thing in one place after so much experience of yours. Like you know me, I also have similar experience like you while working and traveling to many places, including India. 2-3 important observations you made, which were striking, which I never thought. I want to repeat, if you don't mind. One is that some of the villages, I think many of the villages, people never heard of the name of Pranab Mukherjee, one of the presidents of India. That's the symptom of whatever spread of communication, television we talk about, and also spread of education. There's a lot of deeper thing in that statement if you probe deeper. And I want to expand that. In every state I have been, I think they are the ones which constitute over 30-40% of the voter population. All that means what is happening to the so-called, leading to the so-called democracy you're talking about for the last 70 years. Where is this conjugations happening? Where is this connectivity happening? That means I see at my age, there are 2-3 Indias operating at the same time. And these are the symptoms, these are the things, and they have learned to live together because the total absence of governance. The Babu versus Neta, whatever called, everybody, Netas are surviving, but they have nothing else to do. They are the ones who have never go to colleges. They're nine. State I belong to originally, West Bengal, has been highly polarized politically because the Babus has been fed. I mean, this is their income. The politics is their survival because there is no job in the state for the last 30-40 years. So all this thing goes into that, and eventually it means that so-called Babus who are supposed to be like us, who have intelligent thinking, they know all this thing. They have decided no point talking about this thing. Let them do what they like, so long I can protect myself. And that's the danger. Sure, I feel sad. I don't want to hear for many more years, but I have talking about democracy. What is that we have done? Democracy, I'll just only one point I'll make in the democracy. Democracy is supposed to be in even a small setup, in a 5 kilometer, 2 kilometer. People get together and decide what is good for them. And then you expand from 5 kilometer, 10 kilometer. And if that is not there, then somebody else from thousands of kilometers will decide, and that's why nobody cares. Nobody cares what, who is the president, who is the prime minister, who is political party. Everybody survives. This is where I think we have done, and these are all integrated practice, not only economics, politics, sociology, and the social changes that is happening. But I did not add anything, but very clear that these have all been said in a beautiful manner with your example, and we should continue spreading this message. Thank you.
Lakshmi, I have to jump the gun. I have to give preference to Dr. I.M. Pandey, who used to be my teacher. One of the leading lights of teaching finances in the 80s and 90s. Obviously continued, but I have to give him preference. After that, I'll come to you.
Thank you, Kumar. Thank you, Kumar. It has been an excellent talk. After a long time, it has been very, very refreshing. I think as a teacher, I would like to say that this is the kind of development economics which we should be talking in even IIMs. Well, I belong to a village, of course, and that's in Uttarakhand. And I know many of those problems. Uttarakhand has a mixed kind of, situation. It's developed in many parts, but then still there are villages up the hill, quite interior, in fact, and where many of these things have not reached actually. And what has happened in the process is that the people, now, for example, we didn't have a school in my village. It was a small village consisting of just the 10 families, you see. So we have those kinds of villages. Perhaps they have expanded a little bit now in many places. And the kind of development which is taking place is the same as you are saying. Actually, now there is a train, you see. They're cutting the hills, the mountains, and the train will go to certain areas there, you see, long areas. And then there is a bus route. Bus route, of course, was built even in 50s or 60s, because from there, when you go to Pithoragarh, after that, you go, the China border is there. Similarly, in the Garhwal region, after Kedarnath, you see, and after a last village of Garhwal, you have China border again. And you can see Chinese walking into those villages many times. So the villages have been abandoned. Actually, by 2015, 10%, 2015, I don't know the latest figure, 9% of the villages, you see, they are ghost villages. Nobody lives there. The houses are there, broken houses. The old people, they have died, and the children, they have either moved to Delhi. Earlier, they used to go to Delhi and Lahore, you see. And of course, my father, when he saw that there was, of course, they were Sanskrit educated, you see. My grandfather was MA in Sanskrit, but then there is nothing for him even there. But he stayed. My father decided to take us to Delhi. So we were brought up in Delhi. These were the kind of things we used to discuss in Delhi School of Economics. Of course, we had those kinds of professors. But then when they were teaching formally, we were teaching what we are teaching still today about the economics, the agriculture and the kind of a thing. So this is an excellent experience-based, I think, learning for all of us. And so when you said that aspiration levels are low, I agree. And I suspect that one of the reasons for that could be that they distrust outsiders. That is my suspicion. I have no evidence for that. And the second is fatalism, actually. Of course, these villagers, they are fatalistic. And that could be the reason. So that has to be broken, actually. Now, what kind of intervention do we need? Now, of course, you said that you prefer Neta over Babu. Very recently, Indrajit Khanna, who was a visiting professor at IIM Ahmedabad, retired as an IAS. He shared his experience, because he has written a book, actually. He shared his experiences. And he talks about Babus themselves, at the same time, the Netas. And he has given a list of Netas who were excellent supporter to the Babus. Now, this Babu, which is Indrajit Khanna, also comes from a little lower middle kind of class, actually. He realized. He did a lot of work, actually, for the places wherever he went. And he says that it's the support of Neta which you need. So actually, if these two combine together, if they become enlightened, actually, the wonders could happen. And we can transform whatever we want to do. Now, like you, I have also visited some of these countries. I found not many of them, but Vietnam, Mauritius, of course, because there are several kinds of communities there. And what I found, Vietnamese, I think they are the people who are really prepared to work very, very hard. The villagers. We went to villages. We trained, actually. Of course, the training was to the trainers. And it was an excellent experience for us. India could adopt. My only, now I will stop, but my suggestion is that if, let's say, even Neta fails, many places Netas have failed, actually. You gave example of successful Netas, but then there are places where Netas has totally failed the villagers. If Netas are failing, some of them at least, Babus are failing, what should be the intervention, therefore? I think we need to think of an alternative mechanism. Some of the enlightened people, the civil society, those who have these kinds of experience, some of us who have come from villages, of course, we have grown up in place like Delhi, educated in best of the institutions. And that, of course, I think I will give a credit to the government that the education was free. I paid 18 rupees per month in Delhi School of Economics.
Okay.
15 rupees in Sri Ram College, and that too, the principal exempted me. I said, look, 15 rupees is too much for me. And he said, all right. So he gave me fee waiver. So government has done something in the cities, but the villages have been neglected. Therefore, I think perhaps we can think of some alternative, more interventions beyond government and Babus, if that is possible. Of course, we will have to work through them. So that is perhaps my suggestion, but it was excellent. In fact, that is what we should be teaching in IIMs.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
This Neta and Babu, let me clarify. He asked me the question Neta versus Babu. I answered only why Netas are the misconceptions about Neta. Not that I say it is commonly applicable to all the Netas. Obviously, there are different shades and grades and gray. But in general, I am talking about, and that's more to bombard the opinion about Netas rather than a universal certificate of goodness and character to all the Netas. They have some this one of obviously many ruling parties are not even fielding their own old Netas. Obviously, they are failing. Next, I think Lakshmi has signed off. I think Lakshmi, are you there? Okay, and let me go to Srikanth. You have any comment?
Yeah, I mean, it's thank you, Kumar, for an excellent presentation. I think as you rightly said, education and health are very important. But my only question is, I mean, we have been, as you rightly said, you have seen the at the ground level, and like you, I think some of us have also worked, and we have also the same opinion. But where is the, where are we going wrong? As somebody said, is democracy the right thing for India? Because there is, you are supposed to take decisions, localized decisions, but here decisions are being taken thousands of miles away. So, I mean, I really don't know, what is the right way to go about, correcting these kind of, thing. Of course, the other view is that, we only have 70 years, gone through to correct historical, what the British did and all that. I mean, I really don't want to get into it, but I don't know what is the future hold for the downtrodden and the people who are there at the bottom of the pyramid, for so long. And of course, some of them are coming up, but still, I don't know what is the solution, Kumar. To be very honest, I think as Professor Pandey said, maybe I think you are, I think you should take up, teaching as a post-retirement function. I think you'll be good at it, bringing maybe a level of knowledge about these kind of things. But I think we need some, I don't know what is the solution. I mean, I'm really sad to see this kind of a situation even now.
Yes, I know, but it's a very loaded question or comment, but only one thing I'll say, that I think I went to Vietnam first time in 2007. At that time, they had an income which is less than ours. Ours was 1,500 or something. Theirs was 1,300, 1,250 or something. But sheer observation of their attitude, of their discipline, rule of law, etc. I wrote in a paper, I think Business Line, Vietnam's attitudinal infrastructure is far better than India. And I won't be surprised if their income is twice as much within the next 10 or 12 years.
Now, just to interrupt, sorry, I take a point. Is size the problem then?
Size
Or
is not the problem. Their
is that
per capita
74th?
resource availability is less than India's, because there is a
Is the
small.
74th amendment, if it had been implemented well, that urban local body devolution, would it have made a difference if it had been done properly? I mean, I really don't know. I mean,
Anyway,
so,
we will discuss it offline, MCS.
yeah. Okay, thank you, Kumar, for
No problem.
excellent.
Mr. Kulkarni, you have any? Kulkarni?
Yes, Kumar.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've been enjoying the sessions that you had been conducting. I had been participating and I was looking for this actually. Always I'm looking for this. This was really great. A perspective which you brought in, which probably we from our regular routine, the way we look at the debates and things like that, this kind of things doesn't come up. So thank you so much for that. I have only a few thoughts on this one. The perspective which you brought, that aspiration was something really stunning, that whatever small money they get, they only look at investing into some kind of a gold jewelry or non-gold jewelry. Whereas on the same slide, you also showed that the young generation, the kind of an aspiration that you could sense. And that's what I was just wanting to couple it with what Mr. David also said, where whether it is television or mobile, although mobile has its flip side, the kind of social media, the kind of an influence that comes on, but that is the only way I feel, right? Like reaching those people and raising their aspiration. Probably the way you talked about the netas can do something for them, same way this, the television and the mobile access is something which probably is, setting the right aspirations in the minds of those people.
Okay.
Now, why I feel one more thing, that today when I go in a vehicle and somehow as a habit, if I throw a paper also outside, my son scolds me like anything, Now, our habits, my generation's habits of, the cleanliness, probably I'm quite considerate, I am quite conscious, but still inadvertently something happens which doesn't happen from the young generation. Now, the kind of conditioning that has happened to them really changes, the way they look at the life is completely different. So what I was wanting to say is that, yes, it is really very, very important that how we invest onto the education and doing that kind of a conditioning which is required to this young generation right now.
True.
And that is what is probably going to be helping changing the economy. I don't know, how do you see that?
So actually,
what I said was making sense.
That kids which I showed you, government perforce put them all in school. That's it. See, there the incentive is very clear. They were in the margins of existence, pressured by police on the one side and the Naxals on the other side. They were part of it on both sides. Sufferers as well as the people were suffering. Government, gave them an option. You put your schools and the kids boarding, lodging free. So everybody put their school kids there.
Okay.
And, once you give a reasonably, proficient and diligent teachers, they were taken care of. They were not influenced either by television or mobile that much. So they have their influence, communication, and building up the aspirations. But what will explain the previous two villages? They also have access to televisions, but they were not that very aspirationally outlook looking. Now I'll go on to lots to people. Mysore Seshadri. No, I think he's gone off. Ranga.
Yeah. Thank you, Kumar. It was excellent. It opened my eyes to many things. One of the things that I just wanted to think about was regarding the health. There is, the explosion of telemedicine, where you can sit in one end and try to diagnose on the other end, especially in villages. Has that been at least tried in these places? Or, of course, I understand that the people in the rural area, they need training to do this. But are there any local towns which are just say about 40 or 50 kilometers away, where they can come there and do this?
You mean medical diagnosis?
Yeah, medical diagnosis and
see, medical diagnosis is again, dictated by some vested interests, in my opinion. It is possible to detect cancer through non-invasive, non-radiating this one by simple image processing. Okay. But none of these hospitals will let you practice it because their income is gone. Okay. In fact, I keep telling others, I was going through nearly 18 months of diagnosis to get my spondylitis detected. And after that, this Ayurvedic, this one Kotakal person I went, and they recommended some massage through some lady, 70-year-old lady, don't have any wrong notions. The first day she came, she poured some oil, prayed in front of me, and it dripped down below, and she felt my spine and said, your problem is between number 3 and number 4. All it took her 2 minutes. There are some signs behind this, but unproven the way we want. And somehow the government doesn't want to recognize, others don't want to recognize. But in the interest of cutting down the medical delivery costs, we have to recognize this. Okay, they may also go wrong. Maybe in 10% of the cases, wrong diagnosis. But isn't the formal system so prone to that kind of this one? So, in fact, one more example is this. This Mr. Chandrababu Naidu has a small group of people working together. They had come up with a diagnosis for this COVID. What they had done, you cough. They give you an app on the cell, you have to cough. They had studied something like 6 lakh coughs and dissected these coughs to many small things through artificial intelligence. They had identified only coughs having this particular characteristics, which may be 1 in 1,000 or something. You are having COVID. Did you see the light of day of that app?
no.
Obviously, when you are able to sell at 800,000 rupees or something per kit for this one, which company will allow you to propagate this one? In fact, I had attended that session. Mr. Naidu was also there, and they had demonstrated it preliminary. Of course, this beta testing had to be done. After that, it has to be this one, but there's a lot of merit in it. But the one is the government has to decide, it has to this one and come with a package of practices to optimize costs. I am not saying allopathy is all bunkum. There is merit, but there are softer, less costly solutions to many of the local diseases, for the villages. It is possible, in my opinion, including this, through this artificial distant stethoscopes and all. It is possible. Yeah, thank you. And who else? Otherwise, we will close it. Thank you all for.
Thank you, Kumar.
Kumar,
Thank you, Kumar.
Kumar, just one, David here, just one last point.
Sure.
What is going to happen in healthcare?
Yeah.
We're involved in a lot of interesting technologies, but the key to healthcare in a place like India, from a rural perspective, in my opinion, is access to telemedicine. Telemedicine is making a huge impact. Not only it's a huge impact in the United States and around the world, but it is particularly applicable if you have access to a mobile phone and internet, and you're sitting in a rural environment and you cannot get to a clinic because it is 50 kilometers away. You can access any good person in the medical field, and you can organize that so that at least you can get access to some medical advice. And that's going to make a huge impact. And you can show with a camera and your phone, this is my problem. And I tell you, we're doing it during COVID in the United States when we could not go to the hospital. You have doctors and surgeons actually talking to you on your phone. This is the future for rural healthcare in places like India.
David, my only hope is this system will cut down the cost of diagnosis to 1/10 of what it is, and to 1/100th if the poor people will have to benefit. And that is the key, in my opinion. What you say is, I take the point. Yeah, Desikan, you want to say something? Otherwise, I'm closing.
No, because you wanted to close, I would allow me to make that normal request of the process to, request everybody to come online and give a round of applause to you. Thank you. If people can come online and clap for Kumar.
Bravo, bravo, Kumar.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kumar. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.